Ike saw the magazine cover before Tina did. She found out from the way he set it down. The tour had been running for 3 weeks. Western Europe in the autumn of 1973, Germany, France, the Netherlands, and then the UK leg that had started the previous October and had been extended twice based on demand that no one had projected at the scale it arrived. The Revue had played venues that seated audiences substantially larger than anything they had worked in the American market, and the audiences had received them with the specific intensity of European crowds in that era who had decided, on the basis of recordings alone, that they were in the presence of something historically significant. The press had followed. European music journalists in 1973 had a particular quality of attention that differed from the American music press. Less interested in the celebrity machinery, more interested in the music itself, in what it meant as an artifact of a specific cultural moment. They had written about the Revue extensively during the tour, in German and French and Dutch and English, and the coverage had been, by and large, remarkable for its analytical engagement with what the act actually did and how it did it. Most of the coverage had treated the Revue as a unit, Ike and Tina Turner. The two names together, the partnership as the subject. This was the conventional framing, and most of the press had followed it. Most. Not all. The magazine was a West German publication with a circulation in the high hundreds of thousands. It had sent a photographer to 3 of the tour's German dates, and the photographer had produced work that the editor had found, evidently, more interesting than the standard tour documentation. The cover image was a single photograph, full page. Tina Turner, in a white costume under the stage lights at the Hamburg show, mid-performance, face fully illuminated, the crowd visible behind her stretching to the back of the hall. No Ike, no band, no Revue branding. Just Tina. The magazine arrived at the tour hotel in a press package the morning after the Frankfurt show. The tour manager brought it upstairs. He left it on the table in the common room outside the 2 main suites. Ike was already up when the package arrived. He was at the table with coffee and the American papers the hotel arranged for touring acts. He would have seen the magazine before anyone else in the party. Tina came into the common room about 40 minutes later. She was in rehearsal clothes, her hair pinned back. She was heading toward the coffee. She saw Ike at the table. She saw the press package, partially opened. She saw the magazine sitting on the table beside Ike's coffee cup. She saw Ike's hand on the table, flat against the surface, beside the magazine. Not holding it, not moving it, just resting beside it with a quality of stillness that she had learned to read over 15 years. She poured her coffee. She sat down at the opposite end of the table. She looked at the cover. It took her a few seconds to understand what she was seeing. Not the image itself, which was immediately clear, but what the image represented in the specific context of sitting on a table at 7:30 in the morning beside Ike Turner's flat and unmoving hand. She looked at herself on that cover. She was not in the habit of finding herself remarkable in photographs. She had been photographed thousands of times over 15 years of performing and had developed, as most performers develop, a certain distance from her own image. The woman on the magazine cover was doing something specific. She was occupying space, completely and without apology, in a way that belonged entirely to her and to no one else in the frame. The frame contained no one else. Ike picked up his coffee. He drank. He put it down. He looked out the window at the Frankfurt morning. Gray sky, the particular gray of European autumn, different from American gray in a way that was difficult to name but present. He said without turning from the window, They should have used the one with the band. It was not a question. It was not directed at anyone in particular. It was the specific register of a statement made for the record, said aloud so that it existed somewhere outside his own internal accounting, so that the position was established in the room. Tina held her coffee with both hands. She looked at the magazine. She looked at Ike's profile against the Frankfurt window. She said, "It's a good photograph." He didn't respond to that. There was a silence that lasted long enough to have a specific quality, not hostile, not warm. The silence of two people who have understood the same thing from different sides and have both decided not to name it directly. The thing they had both understood was this: the European press, on the basis of 3 weeks of observation, had reached a conclusion. The conclusion was not about Ike and Tina Turner. The conclusion was about Tina Turner, about what they had seen when they watched her perform. Not the act, not the partnership, not the architecture Ike had built around her voice, but the voice and the body and the specific quality of presence that could not be attributed to architecture. That belonged to something else, to her. Ike had built the frame. The frame was real. The frame had produced this tour, these venues, this morning in a Frankfurt hotel room. He knew this. And the magazine had looked at everything the frame contained and decided that what most deserved to be on the cover was the thing inside it. They had 2 shows left on the European leg. Tina did both with the specific completeness she brought to every performance. Nothing different from the outside, nothing that would give the Frankfurt morning any visible weight in the work. But she kept the magazine. She didn't ask anyone for permission to keep it. She folded it into her bag with the quiet efficiency of someone performing a small, private act of custody. It was a photograph of her. It seemed reasonable to have it. Back in the States, the European tour was discussed in the press package that the label assembled for domestic coverage, a summary of the critical reception, the venues, the audience numbers. The German magazine cover was reproduced in the package as evidence of the tour's impact. In that reproduction it appeared alongside several other images: Ike at the keyboard, the band in formation, the Revue in a press shot taken at soundcheck. It was contextualized, in other words, returned to the frame. But for the duration of a Frankfurt morning, before the contextualization arrived, it had sat on a table beside a flat and unmoving hand, a photograph of a woman who had been seen by people without any stake in the architecture as exactly what she was. And Tina had said, "It's a good photograph." And that was true. It was. And she had held her coffee with both hands and looked at herself on the cover of something that had found in a Hamburg concert hall, the thing that 15 years of touring had been building toward, whether or not anyone in that common room was prepared to name it yet. If this story stayed with you, if that Frankfurt table meant something, there are more waiting here. Subscribe and stay close. There is always more to the story.